How often do we wake up to news headlines about yet another school shooting? This question, while chilling, is the reality we've been facing over the past 5 years. It's like an unseen epidemic, sweeping across our nation's schools, shattering peace and stealing futures. Let's take a moment to reflect on the magnitude of this issue. In the past half-decade, there have been countless incidents of school shootings, some of which have left deep scars on our collective consciousness. From the quiet suburbs to the bustling cities, no place seems immune to this terrifying trend. Take, for example, the surge in gun violence that Jackson, Mississippi saw in the year 2021, with homicides surpassing 130, a grim annual record. Or the 6 mass shootings Texas has experienced since 2016, a state with some of the most permissive gun laws in the country. These incidents are not isolated. They are part of an alarming pattern that's been unfolding over the years. But it's important to remember that behind these cold statistics lie real human stories. Each incident of gun violence in a school represents a young life cut tragically short, a classroom plunged into chaos, a community left to pick up the pieces. Consider the local business owner in Jackson, shot outside a barbershop, or the 22-year-old sprayed with gunfire at a gas station. These were people with dreams, aspirations, loved ones. Their lives were abruptly and unjustly ended, leaving behind a void that can never truly be filled. The impact of these shootings extends beyond the victims themselves. They leave families grappling with unimaginable grief, communities living in fear, and a nation questioning its values and laws. These are not just numbers or headlines, but real lives cut short, leaving families and communities in unimaginable grief. As we delve deeper into this issue, let's keep in mind the human cost of this unseen epidemic. What drives a child or a teenager to commit such a heinous act? This is a question that brings us face to face with a sobering reality. The factors that push young people to commit acts of violence in school settings are as complex as they are troubling. First and foremost, mental health issues play a significant role. Many of these young individuals suffer from conditions such as depression, anxiety, and other mental disorders. They often feel isolated, misunderstood, and overwhelmed by their struggles. These feelings can fuel a sense of desperation and anger that, in extreme cases, can manifest as violence. Next, we must discuss the accessibility of guns. In many parts of the United States, guns are easy to obtain and carry. This ease of access, coupled with the power and control that firearms can provide, can create a dangerous situation. It's not a coincidence that states with more permissive gun laws often see higher rates of gun violence. Finally, we must consider the influence of violent media. While it's not accurate to claim that violent video games or movies directly cause school shootings, they can contribute to a culture that normalizes violence. Young people exposed to these forms of media may become desensitized to real-world violence or develop distorted views of conflict resolution. It's crucial to mention here that these factors do not excuse or justify these acts of violence. They are merely pieces of a complex puzzle that we need to understand if we are to prevent such tragedies. However, the common thread among these factors is a sense of desperation and a lack of healthier outlets for expressing anger or frustration. By addressing mental health issues, reevaluating our gun laws, and fostering a media culture that promotes empathy and understanding, we can take significant steps towards preventing school shootings. Understanding these triggers is the first step towards preventing these tragedies. The journey towards a safer future for our children is long and challenging. But by facing these harsh realities, we are already on our way. What happens to a community after a school shooting? This is a question that we must confront head-on. The immediate aftermath is often filled with grief and shock, but the ripple effects of such a catastrophe continue to pervade long after the initial incident. The most immediate and profound effect of a school shooting is felt by the families of the victims. They are left grappling with an unimaginable loss, a void that can never truly be filled. The trauma of having a loved one ripped away so violently leaves a lasting scar, a wound that time may soften, but never completely heal. Beyond the immediate families, the entire community feels the shockwave of such an event. Friends are left mourning, teachers are burdened with the guilt of what if, and every parent in the community is left with a nagging fear that it could have been their child. The sense of security that we often take for granted is shattered, replaced with an undercurrent of anxiety and fear. School shootings also have a profound effect on the survivors. The trauma of such an event can lead to a range of mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. These children carry the weight of that day with them, a burden that can impact their ability to learn, to trust, and to feel safe in the world. Moreover, It's not just the mental health of the survivors and their families that's affected. The entire community feels the psychological impact. There's a collective trauma, a shared pain that can ripple through a town or city for years, even decades after the event. This is why mental health support is so crucial in the aftermath of a school shooting. Survivors, their families, and the wider community need help to navigate the emotional aftermath, to process their grief and trauma, and to begin the long journey towards healing. The impact of a single bullet reverberates far beyond the school grounds. It echoes through the halls and homes of a community, leaving a lasting imprint on the hearts and minds of those left in its wake. But with understanding, support, and care, we can help mitigate these effects and start to rebuild the shattered pieces. Can stricter gun control laws prevent school shootings? That's the question we find ourselves grappling with time and again as we confront the harsh realities of gun violence. Across the globe, there's compelling evidence to suggest that tighter gun control measures can indeed make a significant difference. For instance, Australia, a country that once faced its own heart-wrenching mass shootings, enacted stringent gun laws in 1996. The result? A dramatic decrease in firearm homicides and suicides, and not a single mass shooting in over 2 decades. Similar success stories abound in other countries like the United Kingdom and Japan, where strict gun control laws have led to noticeably lower rates of gun violence. These nations have made it clear that a society with fewer guns often translates to a society with fewer gun-related tragedies. But can such models be replicated in the United States? Therein lies the challenge. For decades, the United States has been locked in a heated debate over gun control. While some argue for the right to bear arms as enshrined in the Constitution, others point to the alarming frequency of mass shootings, particularly in schools, as a clarion call for reform. The resistance to stricter gun control measures is often steeped in partisan politics, making it a complex issue to navigate. Yet, our history shows us that it's not an impossible task. The United States has passed meaningful gun control legislation in the past, such as the federal assault weapons ban in 1994, albeit with its own set of loopholes. The conversation around gun control is not about infringing on individual freedoms, but rather about preserving the safety and welfare of our communities. It's about ensuring that our schools remain places of learning and growth, not scenes of unimaginable tragedy. So, can stricter gun control laws prevent school shootings? The data from around the world suggests a resounding yes, but it requires a willingness to challenge the status quo, to prioritize lives over political allegiance, and to embrace the fact that gun control isn't about taking away rights, it's about protecting our most precious resource, our children. What can you do to help prevent school shootings? It may seem like a monumental task, and it is, but there are actions each one of us can take. First, consider supporting stricter gun control measures. The ease of access to firearms is a significant contributing factor to school shootings. By advocating for legislation that makes it harder for potential shooters to obtain guns, we can potentially reduce the occurrence of these devastating incidents. Next, mental health resources in schools are crucial. Many school shooters struggle with untreated mental health issues. By ensuring that schools have adequate mental health resources, we can identify and help at-risk students before they turn to violence. This means lobbying for more funding for school counselors and mental health programs, as well as fostering a culture of understanding and acceptance around mental health. In addition, promoting responsible media consumption is key. The media often sensationalize school shootings, which can inspire copycat crimes. By encouraging media outlets to report responsibly and avoiding the sharing of sensationalized stories ourselves, we can help to minimize this effect. But how can you, as an individual, make these changes happen? It starts with contacting your representatives. Write to them, call them, make your voice heard. Let them know that you support stricter gun control, mental health resources in schools, and responsible media reporting. Your representatives are there to represent you, and if they hear from enough of their constituents on these issues, they will be more likely to take action. Beyond that, consider supporting organizations that are working to prevent school shootings. Groups like Everytown for Gun Safety and the Brady Campaign are doing important work in this area, and can always use more support. Remember, this is a complex issue and it won't be solved overnight. But by taking these steps, you can contribute to the solution. Change begins with you. Together, we can create safer schools and communities for our children.